Now I am. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to tonight's first of the Fall Talk series put together by the Manitoba Craft Council, Mentoring Artists for Women's Art, and Manitoba Fibre Festival. The title of tonight's talk is Taking and Giving Back, Natural Dying on Stolen Land, and I am your presenter. Hello. Yeah, I'm just going to wait a couple minutes to give people the chance to find us here. Yeah, we're gonna kind of set it off at 7:03, just a couple minutes to give people a chance to find us. Welcome, everybody. Okay, for those of you joining us, I'm just waiting a couple of minutes to give a chance for people to find the link and tune in. It's strange not to know how many of you are out there. Hello, everybody. We're just going to give one more minute until 7:03 to give a chance to people to find us here and tune in to tonight's talk. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up over here. So I'm gonna welcome everybody tonight. Hello. This is the first talk of the Fall Talk series put together by the Manitoba Craft Council, Mentoring Artists for Women's Art, and Manitoba Fibre Festival. The title of tonight's talk is Taking and Giving Back, Natural Dying on Stolen Land, and I am your speaker. Hello. Before I start, I have some words to share, words of welcome from the Manitoba Craft Council. The Manitoba Craft Council was founded in 1978 as Manitoba's only non-for-profit arts organization dedicated exclusively to contemporary craft. The Manitoba Craft Council is located in Winnipeg within Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, Oji Cree, Dene, and Dakota, and is the birthplace of the Métis Nation and the heart of the Métis Nation homeland. The purpose of the MCC is to promote, develop, and advocate for contemporary craft and its makers in Manitoba. For over 40 years, the organization has worked to ensure that contemporary craft and the artists who produce it are supported, recognized, and celebrated for their contribution to the cultural and economic life of Manitoba. In these challenging times, the Manitoba Craft Council is proud to create programming to help artists, craftspeople, and other makers adapt with the rapid and continuing changes in our community. I figure I should introduce myself next. My name is Francesca Carella Arfinengo. I am a white Latinx first-generation settler working here in Treaty 1 territory since 2008. I grew up in Peru in South America in an urban setting. I am an emerging artist and work in arts administration. I've been primarily working with textiles or using textile techniques in my practice in the past few years. So I will like to begin tonight's talk with gratitude. I am really grateful for being part of this Fall Talk series and feel very thankful for having a platform to speak freely. I acknowledge the immense privilege this is. I am thankful to everyone here, hello, for making space to engage in this conversation. I want to thank the Osborne Florists for their generosity and openness to partner with me this year. Big thanks to Elder Audrey Logan for engaging in conversation with me about gardens and plants. I want to thank my father-in-law Ted for his guidance in gardening and starting the corn from seed. I want to thank Tallulah Schlegel and Chelsea Newfield and my partner Sean McLaughlin for some of the photos that I'll be showing tonight. And thanks also to the plants and the land where they grow and the air and the sun and the wind. The plants have been my teachers. They've given me so much and challenged me in many ways this year. So tonight, I am sharing the lessons I have learned from roses and corn. They have asked me questions, and I have been working as I have been working with roses to do natural dyeing and planted and grew Peruvian corn in our backyard. In an effort to unsettle my mind in my art practice and challenge my own thinking that contributes to systems of oppression, I have turned to Indigenous and Black artists, academics, and knowledge keepers, so I'll be sharing their work today. I am not an expert in any topic I'm discussing today by any means, and I like to make clear that I can only speak from and about my experiences. I would also like you to know that I view art as a way of knowing. Both the process and the product can help us know things we cannot know through science, logic, or other ways. In my work, I use materials from above the ground, animal hair, cotton, plants, things like that, for their physical properties and symbolic relevance. I turn to these materials as signifiers of a connectedness with nature's alchemy. There's a longing that moves me in this direction and that I am trying to dissect. Okay, so let's start with roses. Right now, I am working with dump flowers, which are roses that are deemed unsellable and are discarded. I collect them from a flower shop nearby. However, these roses have come to me from South America. They have gotten to me by way of many different economic and free trade policies that encourage the export flower industry to grow in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. I don't know exactly where they're from, who grew them, or how. I don't even know what kind of roses they are. I just know that they're here in abundance in all seasons. So much so that every week there is a pile of dump roses I divert from the compost pile. I have been bundle dyeing, extracting dyes, pounding the petals into fabric, and playing with dried rose petals in some weavings. And those are the pictures that you're seeing as I speak. These roses are a material to me, a free natural resource I can use. I relate to the roses by primarily asking them, what can you do for me? They are roses for my taking, to use as I please. There's a pragmatic rationale at work, an anonymity in our relationship. We're living in a time where nature is understood as just a bunch of natural resources to be exploited. This way of knowing and living in the world is the backbone of the white settler state and the extractive capitalism economic model. In contrast, I was reminded what the Andean cosmovision thinks about biodiversity by the writing of Grimaldo Rengifo Vázquez in his book Los Caminos Andinos de las Semillas. The Quechua and the Aymara people primarily live in the Andes. In Andean culture, biodiversity is holistic, includes everything and anything that exists. The members of the human community, Runacuna in Quechua, regard not only an alpaca or a corn plant as animate. The river, the stones, the stars, the wind, which biology categorizes as inanimate, those are also regarded as living beings. In this worldview, no living being on Earth is autonomous in terms of its own regeneration. Todos tenemos que ver con la vida de todos, y todos estamos comprometidos en la regeneración del mundo. The best way I can translate this sentence is that we're all linked to the life of others, and we're all linked to the Earth's regeneration. I'm still working over these words and trying to understand what they really mean. Robin Wall Kimmerer, a botanist and member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, in her book Braiding Sweetgrass, shares her story about learning to speak Potawatomi, her language. She identified a similar kind of thinking that I've mentioned, and described it as a grammar of animacy. For example, in her language, the word for bay reads to be a bay. She describes a bay can only be a noun if water is dead. But when bay is a noun, it is defined by humans, trapped between its shores and contained by the word. But the verb to be a bay releases the water from bondage and lets it free. This word is only possible in a world where everything is alive. These ideas challenge my approach to the roses. They inspire me to learn more about the plant itself, to know the farmer that grew them and the travels it took to get to me. I wonder how this approach would change my art practice. For example, if I acknowledge and respect the rose's personhood, is it possible to consider them my collaborators? Usually, the museum label for a finished piece lists materials. So what kind of shift would listing roses as collaborators provoke in our understanding of cultural production? Now, another way of thinking about plants was shared to me by Elder Audrey Logan. I asked her what she thought about plants when I met with her. She told me that they're everything. Through our conversation, she made it clear that the only way for her to live a dignified life, because of systematic oppression, was to have access to a garden, to grow traditional foods and tend to medicines. Her life is intrinsically intertwined with the understanding that we as humans are in debt to plants. We are nothing without them. That they are a gift, in fact. A gift in the private property economy that we live in, like for example the roses I collect, is something that you get for free. As in free because I did not pay for them, we didn't pay for them. However, in gift economies, as explained by Robin Wall Kimmerer, the essence of the gift is that it creates a set of relationships. The currency of a gift economy is at its root reciprocity. She assigns a circular movement to gifts. They are given, and eventually they come back. So, if the colors from roses are a gift to me, what am I giving back? What sets of responsibilities do I have in this relationship? I wonder if this circular movement between species, plants and people, is even possible in the private property economy. If so, how can we rupture and make way for it to be possible? I'll scroll through images of one of my last dye batches. You can see some of the fabrics behind me as well. Those are my sheets. I didn't dye those. Okay. Now let's go on to corn. Last spring, we planted a couple of different varieties of Andean corn from Peru in our backyard. This is a new neighborhood for me and my partner. So we decided to give this a go. Now, this is not the first time I have wanted to grow food from where I am from. Having this resource close connects me to this land. As an immigrant, I am aware that I have no roots to this place before me. I build them every day. This corn, in a way, it's a metaphor for my life. Like this foreign corn, I hope to set up roots to grow and give fruit. There's an inherent restlessness to my condition as an immigrant. I live in two places at all times, being not really here or there. In Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer struggles with the question of whether if it's possible for a nation of immigrants, referring to the United States, but I think it applies to Canada as well, to become native to place through relationships with plants and the land, to overcome this restlessness I am referring to. She tells the story of the plant called white man's footstep, or plantain, which came into this continent with colonizers. Indigenous people were distrustful of this plant at first, but as it turns out, it has many healing properties, grows in small spaces, and is not an invasive species. Plantain made itself useful, a welcome guest. She says plantain is so prevalent, so well integrated that we think of it as native. How can the people follow the example of plantain? Well, Kimmer suggests that the only way is by understanding that here is where you will give your gifts and meet your responsibilities. To become naturalized is to live as if your children's future matters, to take care of the land as if our lives and the lives of all of our relatives depend on it, because they do. You can see pictures here of the corn. It's getting pretty tall, as you can see by that little dog as a reference. So there's more to the story of this corn. It did set up roots and it did grow. In fact, it grew to about 16 feet tall. That's it in all its glory. This is by day and by night. Now, this Peruvian corn, not recognizing this very rich soil, just kept stretching upwards, living life forgetting it makes corn cobs. The corn didn't bear any tangible fruit, nothing we can consume as food. If I think of this corn still as a metaphor for my life, what does this mean? I think that it means that unless I come to understand that the history and social context of the land where I am putting roots, I also won't bear any fruit, won't be successful in becoming naturalized. So I ask, how can I meet my responsibilities and give my gifts? In my art practice, what does it look like to take care of the land and its people? But what does this look like in the broader context of my life? Now, a no-brainer question, or a no-brainer answer to this question, is to respond to land-back calls for action. Indigenous sovereignty is under threat from coast to coast here in so-called Canada as I deliver this talk. There are water and land protectors risking their lives right now for the sake of our children's futures. I've decided that 50% of the fees for this talk will go directly to the tiny house warriors, who are on a mission to stop the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain pipeline from crossing unceded Secwepemc territory near Kamloops, BC. TMX weaves through 900 rivers and creeks, threatening Secwepemc, Thompson, and Fraser River, a crucial spot for salmon spawning. I thought it would be good for me to post some resources about land-back calls of action in the description of the video so you can follow up with this lead. So look down below, they'll be there for you. I also quickly want to mention that Elder Audrey Logan is having an online fundraiser to build a permaculture community garden in West Broadway. So I'll link to that too. They're still taking in donations. So as you can see from the photos, this corn was pretty monumental. It disrupted the suburban backlane landscape, interrogated the use of a designated residential lot. Its presence in our neighborhood brought about new relationships because people walking by or driving by would stop to ask about it. In fact, a neighbor was so delighted that he brought us a very special gift as a thank you just for growing this corn. Look at it. It is really beautiful. It makes the most amazing sound when the wind blows. This is like corn that is as tall as trees. The roots were very cool as well. This was just a couple of days ago. But here, I'll go back to when it was in all its glory. There it is. Now, I want to highlight the work of Tanya Willard and Moran, two members of a shifting group of Indigenous artists that make up Bush Gallery. Bush Gallery is an experimental, land-based, Indigenous-led artist residency that takes place on Willard's land in Secwepemc Nation in interior British Columbia. Their projects consider the aesthetics of daily living as artistic expression, interrogate where art happens and what materials can constitute it. Overall, Bush Gallery focuses on experimental investigations that enable the complexities of Indigenous knowing along with an active disengagement with Western logic. I think that Bush Gallery is a radical example of engaging in art making. And inspired by their work, I have begun to question whether this patch of corn can be considered an extension of my art practice at all. A collaboration with the corn, with my partner, and with the land. It got really tall. Another fruit that the corn, produce is that it was a home for a lot of creatures during the summer. There was this bunny rabbit who lived under it since he was a tiny baby because it liked eating the weeds protected by its canopy, which is pretty sweet. Obviously, a lot of the insects and such and birds really liked it. Okay, so I want to now move towards talking a little bit about the legacy, the labor, and the knowledge of Black and Indigenous master dyers. They have protected the plants and the knowledge used for dyeing despite colonization, displacements, and genocide. Particularly of dye staffs that have very strong ties to a group's cultural identity, such as cochineal or indigo. Natural dyeing is a popular trend as more people seek to have a sustainable life or art practice. However, we have to be intentional in our participation and avoid replicating exploitative models of colonialism and Western appropriation. I found a really good article by Aram Cifuentes, who's an artist based in Chicago. The article is called Steps Towards the Colonizing Craft. And she lines out a process to follow in order to avoid these patterns of colonization and Western appropriation. First, she suggests that we go through, First, she suggests that we consider and respect context. We cannot take others' knowledge and cultural production and see it through our eyes and assume that that's it. She urges us not to assert our histories, values, and hierarchies onto others. Second, she encourages us to reject simplistic representations of people, a move that cannot begin without first abandoning our understanding of the words traditional and contemporary. Traditional is often understood as old and ancient, and contemporary as new and modern. There are contemporary practitioners of traditional crafts, hence these two words are not binary. They coexist. Contemporary should not serve as a synonym for Western. These distinctions are made so that contemporary artists can appropriate from traditional artisans without citing them or their work, which I think happens all the time. Lastly, Cifuentes reminds us to ask who has the power in any project that we engage in. Power is equated with, but not limited to, authority, social status, money, agency, and fame. And as we acknowledge this power, she encourages us to equalize power to the best of our ability. We must break the cycle of exploitative practices. I want to move to a couple of quotes that I want to share. The first one is from Abubakar Fofana, who's a master indigo dyer based in Mali. He's pretty well known around the world. I'll put it up here. You must understand that textiles are not just fiber and dye. These things are what is visible in our practice. We are coming from a line, often of many thousands of years, of knowledge passed down. For me, that lineage was broken, and I spent decades finding, learning, and remaking it, and I remain true to it. You need to be respectful in your use of the things you are taught to understand the broader implications of these traditions and where they come from, what they mean to others. Otherwise, it is just more colonialism. He posted this on his Instagram a couple of years ago, and it has stayed with me until now. He specifically works with indigo, so he's referring to those who practice indigo dyeing. The next quote is by Porfirio Gutierrez, who's a master weaver based in Mexico. His sister Juana is the master dyer in their workshop. And he says, "We also need to respect the plants, the trees. My ancestors believed that everything that moved has a soul. When I was young and collecting the dyes and firewood in the mountains with my father, he would always emphasize that the plants are alive and that we need to respect them. When I talked to Juana about it, she says her emotions get into the colors and that her faith is intertwined with her practice as an artist. So when someone asks me to tell them the process of natural dyeing, well, I can't tell you the process if you don't understand that our colors come from a living source and what that means to us. If you don't understand that, it's just a color for you, and I don't think you'll respect it or the people. I don't think you'll be aware of what you're looking at or what you're working with. It just becomes a pretty thing to you. But there's a reason behind all these things." I figure I would end my quote with this, or my talk with these two quotes, as they were catalysts for, honestly, the entire talk, and really, I think, put it all together, put all these ideas that have been going through my mind together. So I think we can go into the Q&A question. As you can see, if you're watching me on your computer, you can see the comment section below the video and you can type your questions there. I'm going to get assistance from my partner who's going to help me read them. And then hopefully I can answer them as they come. I think that if you're watching from your phone, the chat is on the side, correct?
It's opposite.
Or opposite to the video?
Don't worry. Chat is round.
Chat is below on your phone, and chat is on the side on your computer. There you go, folks. Okay, I'm just going to blast a picture of something nice while I wait for your questions. That's a good one. Hello, everybody. No questions?
Do you want to talk about some of the pieces that are behind you?
No. I'll just wait for your questions. Let's just look through these pictures again. Maybe seeing them will inspire you to ask something. Cool.
What's your next project that relates to these themes?
So somebody just asked, what is my next project that relates to these themes? I don't have a clear vision yet, but I really want to explore this rationale that really considers alternative things to what art can be. So what I mean by that is this idea of me thinking of the corn patch as an art project, just an art piece. So I want to interrogate what that can look like. And how I could occupy space or how I could expand my practice in that direction. Looking to go in a social practice route for my next project. Oh, okay, next question.
Do you work with native plants from the area, or are you okay with introducing non-native species to your practice?
So somebody asked me if I work with local plants in my practice. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're okay with using non-native plants.
And if I am okay with using non-native plants. So I actually have dyed with certain native plants from Manitoba. So I tried goldenrod and what else? Yarrow. Yeah, and a couple of things. Oh, and then birch bark as well. So I have tried those too. I just foraged them. But something I'm also thinking through, and I think need some more direction, is how to responsibly forage, not only like from an ecological preservation perspective, but also how to forage plants that are a gift as a settler, who lives in these lands. So I'm still thinking through that, but I think I will definitely like to explore local plants in my work.
What was the most surprising thing you've learned about textiles, dyeing, and or the culture around it?
Okay. The next question is, what is the most surprising thing I have learned about textiles, dyeing, and or the culture around them? That is a good question. I think that maybe the most surprising or slash the most interesting is to know that the fabric can contain so much meaning. So before doing these pieces, I was also researching a lot of Peruvian textiles, and then found a lot of information as to how every aspect of the textile actually has a particular meaning. So if the yarn is spun, it's called like a Z way or an S way. Those can mean different things, and they were made for different purposes. Also the colors and the designs. So just the most surprising, I guess, is to learn about how they can be language and how they can communicate ideas, in contrast to how we handle textiles now, which is, pretty much from just a practical perspective for the most part in our daily lives,
Hi, I love to work with batiks. Are you saying that it would be a good practice to research and think about that very special way these textiles were created to truly understand its value?
So somebody's asking about batik. They like to work with it, and the question goes along the lines whether they should.
Is it good practice to research and think about that very special way that these textiles were made?
Yeah, they're asking whether it's a good practice for them to research how they were made and what they mean. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is really what Master Dyer Abu Bakr Fofana is saying, that, he's not discouraging anybody from engaging in a practice or in an art practice, but you really have to know what the thing is. So where is this plant from? Like, what was it used for? And if it's batik, which is a particular textile practice, where was it popular? Like, how was it used there? What are their meanings? And it doesn't mean that you can't use it. I just think that what we're being asked is to be responsible and really get to know the stories of the materials that we're working with and the traditions that we're working with before we go into it.
Can you tell us how this project started?
Okay, somebody asked if I can tell them how this project started. I'm assuming they mean the natural dyeing. I'll just move towards those pictures. So this project started because I really wanted to explore this technique, natural dyeing, in all the senses. So I wanted to become better at it, and I wanted to understand, what potential symbolic meanings it could have. And I remember that hearing that flower shops have flowers that they get rid of on a regular basis. So I decided to just ask the flower shop to see if she would agree to give me whatever flowers she had, and not expecting any particular kind of flower. So when I first got the first bunches, they were all just roses. So then I was like, oh, cool, let's just try this out and see how it goes. So, I think primarily my intent was to get better at this technique, but then as I was working with the roses, they made me think of other things, which is again why I love art and making art, because they make you understand the world from a different point of view. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. Nothing more. Okay. Anybody has any more questions, you can still type some up. I'm also super open to be contacted after if you want to continue this conversation, because I think that these are new ideas to me as of this year, and I believe that conversation can be researched. So talking to any of you, I would be very interested in discussing and expanding on any of the things I've mentioned tonight. Oh yeah. My partner just reminded me to tell you how to contact me. You can find me on Instagram, which is will be the easiest. My username is @f.ca, and you can send me a DM there, and we can chat. And if it's something long, or if you want to chat face to face, we can exchange other ways of contact from then on. But yeah, I see that there's one more question coming in.
There's two that are just saying that they missed the first 10 minutes.
And okay.
It is recorded.
Yeah. So a couple of you missed the first bit of the talk. Do not fret. This is being recorded, and I believe it will be available 24 hours after. So it'll be available tomorrow, Friday at 7 p.m. forever, as long as we have the internet. This will be there.
In the first 10 minutes, did you talk about what your background is, and do you look towards your ancestry?
Yeah. So the person who missed the little first bit is asking about if I discuss my background and if I explore my ancestry. Yes. So I am a white Latinx, so that means that I come from European settlers to South America. So I grew up in Peru, and I definitely had exposure to Peruvian textiles in school, and also, being around people who made them. So that is not my ancestry, but that's definitely obviously a huge influence on me, and what I always turn back to look at in my work.
What plants are you hoping to work with but are having trouble finding?
So somebody's asking what plants I am hoping to work with and I'm having trouble finding. I don't think I have a specific plant that I'm looking to work with next. I think I would like to keep exploring with roses until I consider it done. I'm not there yet, so we'll see after that. But in terms of this idea of collaborating with plants in a more, making art with them in this particular way, I'm very interested in all edible plants. So like corn or a garden in itself, I think could be a good tool to create, another way of practicing art. So that's also on my mind these days.
Do you include an awareness of how and where commercial textiles are made, travel from, to who makers are in the social part of your practice, especially as regards in ecological implications?
Okay, this is a really good long question. Maybe I'm gonna just grab the device and read it. Okay, so this question says, do you include an awareness of how and where commercial textiles are made, travel from, to, who the makers are in the social part of your practice, especially as in regards with the ecological implications? I don't think I have ever explicitly talked about this or thought about it as a part of my practice, but yeah, definitely making textiles bring these issues to mind, especially now that everybody is looking to live, not everybody, but that there is a move towards more sustainable living. So a piece of cloth always gets people wondering where it came from. I am aware of that when I create textile pieces, but I don't think I have intentionally addressed it in my practice. Cool. So I think we'll make room for, I think, one more question. So we'll have about 5 more minutes. And again, you can contact me through Instagram. My handle is at f.ca. I would really love to discuss more about this with any of you. What picture should we put up? Should we put the corn up again?
Sure.
Okay, we'll put the corn up until the next question comes up. And again, I just really want to thank everybody for showing up here and hearing me out. I feel, again, really privileged to have this platform. And it's strange not seeing your faces in another type of setting, but I really appreciate your time spent here. Yeah, wherever you are around the world. Sean's telling me that people are watching me from the US and Peru and Brazil, so hola, ¿cómo están? Thanks for tuning in. Cool. Okay, well, since there are no more questions, and with the blessing of Katrina, if you're there, give me a thumbs up, who organized the Manitoba Craft Council organized this talks. I think we can call this a night. She gave us a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time here and hope to be in touch soon.